Story 1. If you do not take care of your body now, you will regret it later. Exercise will make you feel better. Me in my teens. Do not tell me how to live my life. Me in my 30s. The physical therapy for my scoliosis and osteoarthritis is going really well. Story 2-1. Never discuss money or finances with anyone, except your spouse and children. Never put anything into writing that you wouldn't want the world to see. My mom could see into the future because she told me this in the 1970s. Story 3. Life goes by quickly. I used to roll my eyes at every adult who said this to me because, at the time, my life felt like it was moving in slow motion. Now, it feels like I blinked and 6 years passed. I wish I had enjoyed being young and cherished it instead of trying to grow up because being an adult is not easy. I keep trying to tell my younger cousins the same thing, but I can see my younger self in them having the same reaction I did, which makes me feel older. Story 4. Take care of your body, you only get one. Take care of your teeth, visit the doctor, and be cautious with heavy lifting. Being reckless can lead to serious problems. Doctor visits can be expensive, and delaying treatment will only increase costs. My ex chose to opt out of insurance at his job to save money. He developed a toothache from neglecting dental visits, which became unbearable, leading to emergency surgery and tens of thousands of dollars in out-of-pocket debt. A few years ago, I injured my ankle while skateboarding and ended up paying a couple $1,000s just for a splint, even with insurance. My ankle still experiences occasional aches. Story 5. My dad would take me around the house to fix things when I was young. I was a tomboy, which makes sense. He once said something like, "I'm not paying someone to fix something that I can learn to fix myself with my own brain and hands." Only in adulthood, following his advice and being very much like him, did I realize how much money I saved by doing things on my own. My dad, in his own way, wasn't telling me to learn these skills just to have them. He was showing me how to stand on my own 2 feet when money isn't readily available. We were poor, and this is how you survive without relying on others. I'm not poor anymore. I'm in my early 40s, but I absolutely refuse to pay someone to do simple repairs at home. I changed circuit breakers, fixed pipe leaks, wired my entire kitchen during the remodel, and more. Why? Because I refuse to pay others to do things I can do myself. Story 6. That the older man who pursued me as a teenager and in my early 20s was a predator. I wasn't mature and wasn't like other girls. As is often the case in these situations, my youth and immaturity made it difficult to recognize that he was a creep, someone that even people his age did not want. My parents were right, he was a predator, and my friends had similar experiences. Unfortunately, this is a common story. Story 7. Parents advised to always wear clean underpants in case of a car accident. This always seemed ridiculous. What are the odds of this being relevant? As I got older, I realized there are other contexts in which someone might see my underpants, reasons that maybe my mother didn't want to address directly. Now I understand why this cliché exists. Additionally, remember to wash behind your ears. Story 8. Don't overshare with others. Never allow anyone to disrespect you twice. I always struggled with saying no as a teenager. They didn't like my friends, and they were right about that. Story 9. Saying no to family. Just because you are related doesn't mean you have to attend every birthday, wedding, or funeral. I'm one of the youngest cousins in a family of hundreds of people. I stopped going to family events around the time I turned 18. Initially, I was seen as just avoidant. After 2020, when everyone quarantined, the family started having small get-togethers. Meeting for coffee when everyone wants to chat is much healthier than forcing the entire family to gather in one place for 6 or more hours just so the elders can get drunk. Story 10. Enjoy your free time while you still have it. It can be hard to make time for everyone and everything these days. Story 11. First heartbreaks are the worst. My high school sweetheart and I were together for years, even after high school. When we broke up and she moved on, I was devastated. I considered checking myself into a mental health facility. My mother always said that the first ones are the worst and advised not to get too wrapped up in a partner. Since then, I am happily married, but I would never let it get to the point of crying in a corner if things didn't work out. Story 12. They were right that I would miss being in school and also miss having dinner meals, even the ones I didn't like as much. I'm not unhappy with adult life. It's great to have my own income and set my own schedule. But I really miss long summer and winter holidays. Spending all day with friends when your only job is learning and participating in extracurricular activities you enjoy. Not having to think about what's for dinner every day or paying rent or utilities. Story 13. You'll understand when you're older. They were so right about this one. The number of times I catch myself saying this exact phrase to my niece now is honestly embarrassing. Sorry for all the attitude, Mom. Story 14. I was spending time with people involved in drugs, alcohol, and crime, and I became one of them. My mother used to say, "If you lie down with dogs, you wake up with fleas." That advice didn't deter me at the time, but later I realized how much I didn't value myself, and it made perfect sense. Story 15. Getting a job is not just about what you know, but also about who you know. It would have been helpful if my parents had taught me some social skills. Story 16. I was never someone who dated during high school, and not having a prom date stung. When my dad dropped me off, he hugged me and said, "I didn't start dating the pretty girls until college." It didn't help that night, but once I got to college, he was kind of right. Turned out I just had to get out of my hometown. My social and romantic life flourished. I really stepped into myself after high school. Story 17. These are the best years of your life, was the most realistic thing I was ever told in elementary school. Story 18. Vaccines are not rewriting my DNA. Just kidding, my parents had a lot of unconventional views on things, and I never really took their advice seriously on many topics outside of the most practical guidance, like how to change a tire, from the time I was a teenager. I am now 36. Story 19. My mom constantly told me to take care of my teeth, or it would cost me a lot of money later in my life. I didn't, and it ended up costing me a lot of money later. Story 20. After you turn 20, the years go by quickly. Blink and you'll be 40. If you are having issues now, just wait until you turn 40. You will hear parts of your body pop that you did not know even existed. Story 21. Republicans support the wealthy, while Democrats aim to assist everyone, particularly the middle and lower classes. Story 22. Nearly everything except that I should obtain a 4-year degree. I cannot express how happy I am that I never had student loans. Story 23. Mine specifically? Absolutely nothing. It took me 30 years to realize that taking their advice was detrimental to my entire life. Story 24. Honestly, not a whole lot. They were right that things can be a certain way, but their perspective was far from the only one. Story 25. I constantly rebelled against my mother's healthy food rules in the house. Now here I am, obsessed with eating healthy. Story 26. Don't get bangs. I didn't listen to this advice and went ahead with it as almost a 40-year-old. Ugh, Mom, you were right. Add more garlic than the recipe calls for. Go to the bathroom before leaving. Story 27. Why, despite all the maintenance, taxes, and challenges of moving, owning a home is financially smarter than renting. Story 28. That furry hole will get you into more trouble than anything else in your life. My father was not wrong. Story 29. It gets harder to quit smoking as you get older. I started when I was 12 and stopped at 27. They were definitely right. They tried everything to help me quit, but nicotine addiction makes you resourceful. Story 30. Don't associate with individuals who lead you into trouble. Your life will improve significantly. This was proven to be true for me last night. Story 31. An 18-year-old wanting to date a 14-year-old is concerning, and it does not reflect your coolness or maturity that an adult is interested in you as a teenager. Story 32. Others can lie to me, steal from me, destroy my property, and cheat me in any way they want, and nobody wants to hear me complain about it. Story 33. The world is full of bad people. I used to think there were some good people, but I realized that everyone has a devilish side, and you need to be careful of everyone. Story 34. My mom knew my childhood best friend was toxic, but I didn't realize it until she completely ruined my self-esteem. Sometimes, I still feel the aftereffects of what she did to me. Story 35. Do not put your hands in the wall plugs. Do not throw food on the floor. Do not eat food from the ground. Do not touch that shard of glass. Story 36. It was a poor decision to pursue art as a career. It worked out for me, but most of my classmates ended up in other fields. Story 37. That my closest friends when I was little were not really my friends. They never told me why. They just looked at me as if I were stupid or blind when I wanted to understand their point of view. Yes, I was miserable most of the time with my friends, but I didn't realize it because I preferred this to being alone. I thought every friendship was the same and that it was my fault I couldn't be happy. I remember clearly a few years before getting closer to these girls. I told my family that I didn't have any friends. My mother laughed mockingly and said, "Of course you have friends. You just don't see them." She looked at me as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. They wouldn't understand that I could not make other friends. I felt weird, socially awkward, and depressed. No one else ever really talked to me before them, except for one girl who lost interest in me in a matter of weeks and a new boy who wanted to be my romantic interest at 8 years old and stopped talking to me because I didn't want us to kiss. So yes, I guess they were right in telling me that those girls were toxic, but it always hurt more that they could never see how lonely I was. Story 38. You won't want to be like me when you're older. It specifically concerns health and exercise, and it becomes increasingly true as I get older. Story 39. You are who you choose to be. This is from the Iron Giant, but my mom would tell me that earnestly. Now I'm almost 30, and apparently, I chose to be a loser. Story 40. Do not argue with irrational individuals. Some friends are not genuine friends. Why repeat the same actions and expect different outcomes? I am sitting with my back straight. My posture is aligned. Story 41. Don't argue with irrational people. Some friends are not truly friends. Why repeat the same actions and expect different outcomes? Sitting with my back straight, my posture is affected right now. Story 42. A girl in my friend group back then was untrustworthy and not a good friend. She definitely called it. Story 43. And for my dad, he always said when faced with a tough or challenging time or task, the only way through it is to do it. Story 44. They were very overprotective and I never understood it. Then I had children and I realized why they acted that way. Story 45. A short nap when you get home from work is beneficial. After traveling all day to visit relatives, going out to explore is not the best activity. Story 46. Friendship is not worth the hassle. When I stopped being the only one making an effort to visit or talk to my friends, I ended up with fewer of them. I came to this conclusion differently than my dad. He experienced friends breaking into our house and stealing from us. As a teenager, he went out hunting with his best friend, and when he returned at the end of the day, he discovered that his friend had committed suicide. Story 47. My father was right about almost everything, especially about how unpredictable my mother and her parents are. Unfortunately, I didn't believe him because I wanted to support both parents after the divorce. If I had realized this, I would have listened to his advice and ignored my mother's. Story 48. My mom always said, "You are who you hang out with," and that really annoyed me. Come to find out, she was absolutely right. Story 49. That I wanted to have children. I wanted to give up my ability to have kids, and my mom advised me to wait because I might change my mind when I'm older. Now I'm about to turn 25. I often feel a strong desire for a baby and dream about being a mother and having a family someday. Story 50. I wish I had parents who were right about anything. It was either bad advice or, more likely, no advice at all. Story 51. Time moves by quickly. Moments as a teenager or young adult feel like they last forever. Now, a year is gone in the blink of an eye. Live in the present. Story 52. Do not get a credit card. My dad kept me away from this girl who was the coolest person around. I thought she was cool for all the wrong reasons, being wild and free. Unfortunately, her adult life went downhill quickly. While I was frustrated at the time for not being able to hang out with her when all my other friends did, my dad was right. Also, do not pierce your tongue. Story 53. Everyone is so focused on themselves that most people won't even notice what you are doing, so don't worry about what others think. I never believed that in high school, but looking back, it's crazy how embarrassed and insecure I was about everything when, honestly, no one cared at all. Story 54. When I was 17, I said I would get a tattoo as a graduation present to myself. I had a part-time job and saved money for college. I was the kind of teenager who nodded my head and did what I wanted. My mom warned me that it starts with one, and before I knew it, I would have 6 tattoos. I dismissed her concerns and got my first tattoo before graduation. Now, 18 years later, I have 6 tattoos. I didn't intend for it to turn out this way. Now that I am in my 30s, I can afford to get any tattoo I want, but I cannot think of anything worthwhile. I believe 6 is really my limit. Story 55. Being an adult doesn't make you smart. I thought everyone gained a uniform sense of maturity and wisdom in adulthood. My mom warned me that there are many foolish adults. Story 56. It is okay to say no to something. It does not mean you do not like someone. It simply means you do not want to do the same thing they do. Story 57. Practice definitely helps. Time goes by faster as you get older. Your tastes change. Life is often scarier than death. Story 58. Arranged marriage is actually the best option. I cannot trust my taste in men, and marriage has always been more of a business deal than anything to do with love. Story 59. My parents tried to give me weapons and told me to harm myself, and I feel unlovable. I was married for a while to my best friend and safe person until they decided to turn on me. Their parting words were, "Your parents were right, and I never loved you." Story 60. Saying no to the light-up spinning toy at the monster truck sporting event was a good decision. They were only $15, but I later saw the exact same toys for sale at a retail store for 99 cents. Now I understand why Dad said no. Story 61. Nothing good happens after midnight. You are going to get caught drinking and driving. Do not let her move in before you are married. Story 62. 2 things I can think of. Don't get into fights unless you absolutely can't avoid them. It wasn't until someone at the bar I frequented got stabbed over something trivial that I realized this was a fact. You never know who might escalate the situation. It's better to have a few good friends than a lot of acquaintances. My friends and I go above and beyond for each other. Story 63. The most important decision in your life is choosing a partner. So take the time to consider it carefully and explore your options. Story 64. One important thing to remember is that the people you surround yourself with matter. As a child or teenager, it is easy to believe that friendships and relationships are solely about having fun or fitting in. However, as you grow older, you realize that the individuals around you shape your mindset, energy, and even your future. Positive influences propel you forward, while negative ones can hinder you in ways you may not notice at first. Story 65. My parents always emphasized the importance of saving money, even when I was young. At the time, I didn't really understand why, but now that I'm responsible for my own finances, I realize how crucial saving and budgeting are for long-term financial security. Story 66. Actions speak louder than words. Emotionally intelligent people know how to use words to influence you, but that does not mean their words have intrinsic value. Story 67. I am a pediatrician, and I tell my teen patients that one day, when they are 26, they will realize their parents were actually right about most things. The parents usually laugh and say, "Oh my God, you were right." Story 68. Who cares what others think about you? I spent too much of my life trying to be nice to others. I couldn't care less anymore. It wasn't worth it. Story 69. My dad told me that if I want to build a lasting relationship with someone, I should make friends with them first. I didn't take the advice initially, but I remembered it. I met a person named Jay who quickly became my friend when I started college in 2011. I dated a few unsuitable partners before eventually starting a relationship with Jay in 2016. We have been married since 2019. Story 70. Time flies even if it feels like it is dragging. This week has felt like a month, and April is next week. Story 71. To save all the extra money I received, including birthday money, I initially wanted to spend it. However, I learned healthy spending habits that have helped me many times. Additionally, I was able to afford a laptop that way. Story 72. Stop eating sugar. You'll get sick. I got really sick with a series of infections for 1.5 years that wouldn't go away, and antibiotics ruined my gut health. Now I am living with gut issues. I wish I had listened. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.